Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson. Welcome to Tea Time. We cover LGBTQIA plus topics, mostly trans topics, to be honest. This is a daily episode series where we just talk about whatever is on my mind in relation to being trans most of the time, but a lot of personal growth stuff too. If you like that kind of stuff, like and subscribe below, and we'll kind of continue the conversation. You'll see my video tomorrow and the next day, and etc., etc. So, yeah, today's been kind of an odd day. I felt down, and I think it's partially because I injected my estrogen yesterday. And someone wrote in the comments asking about mood swings on estrogen. Oh, by the way, I just got my estrogen from Ukraine today. So I don't know if you know this, but in Germany, you can't actually get injectable estrogen. I've basically been surviving off of a stockpile that I acquired when I was in the United States, but I moved here in March in Germany, and so now I'm starting to run out. So I just wanted to kind of unbox this with you, but check it out. It's kind of it's like all written in like what looks like Russian. I guess that's Russian. But yeah, here it is. And also surrounded with more Russian. I think this is to customs to say it's estrogen. And here we are. Estradiol enthanate in castor oil, made by a trans chemist. And it's pretty much trans Underground Railroad stuff, but it has been highly recommended by other trans folks in the German community. So yeah, I'm gonna start injecting it probably in about 6 to 8 weeks. I'm still running through the rest of my other estradiol. But yeah, I'd rather do injections than go back to pills or sprays or gel. Like, I don't wanna have to keep re-upping every day. It's kind of annoying to have to do that and to also take a blocker. Ideally, I'd actually just have my testes removed, so I don't need a blocker. But as far as getting your estrogen intake, I find doing it once a week, or I can even do once every 10 days with this, which doesn't seem that bad, to be honest. Much better, in my opinion. And I get the T blocker for free, basically, when you take an injection, so that's cool. Oh yeah, and you also kind of like avoid the whole like health thing of like deep vein thrombosis with an injection. If you're interested in talking more about like estrogen and like the chemical stuff, I have everything I know about estrogen in another tea time video. Yeah, but anyways, I'm kind of feeling kind of like bleh. And maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the fact that COVID exists and you can't really hang out or see anyone. Maybe it's because there's a lot of stress with all of the work that I'm doing. Maybe it's just because I want to be free. You know, do you have that feeling of just wanting to just soar and to just fly and have such a good, like amazing, expansive experience? Today's Tuesday and I'm just like not in the mood for work. I'm not in the mood for writing. I'm just not in the mood. I'd rather just stay in my bed and just like just stay there. And yeah, I'll probably not be happy there either, because after about a few hours I'll feel like crap because I didn't do anything. But I'm just not in the mood. You ever get that where you're just like, please do not talk to me. I'm not in the mood today. That's my mood today. It's just the no mood. I'm not in the mood. So that's kind of going on. And I've actually been listening a lot to, I hate to say this, but I've been listening a lot to Jordan Peterson lately. And, people give him like this terrible rap of being like, anti-feminism, anti-trans. He isn't actually very anti-trans, I've found. He just kind of like from a rhetorical perspective argued something. I honestly haven't looked too far into it. What I have found to be most interesting is his conversation around masculinity, which That's a topic, right? We talk about femininity here all the time. And we don't really talk about masculinity. We talk about getting rid of it, which will be in tomorrow's episode. We'll talk about how to get rid of masculinity in the mornings with Inner Work Wednesdays, the meditation series. But it's just had me thinking a little bit, because he talks about how research with rats, when they play, they like to... like if a rat is more dominant or able to win the play all the time, they still like have to lose 30% of the time, because the other rat will no longer feel like they can win, and it'll no longer feel like play, so they won't want to play. So the rat that could win all the time has to not win 30% of the time, so that the other rat feels like it's play. And this whole concept of rough and tumble play, how it leads to understanding your social space in your body and being understanding of someone else's space, and like what's pain versus what's surprise. And I remember I did like rough and tumble kind of stuff when I was a kid with my friends and with my dad. But my dad wasn't around all the time. My parents were divorced, and so I'd only get to see my dad like once a year. And he also talks about that, how like telomeres are shorter by the age of 9 in children across the board with parents or kids without dad, and in males, 40%. The telomeres are 40% shorter, and these are measurements of life expectancy in our body. They're like, I guess they're cells. I don't know. You're gonna have to Google telomeres. I'm not a scientist. My sister is, but I'm not. So does that mean, I found myself asking this question as a trans woman without a dad for most of my life. Does that mean that my telomeres are shorter? And does that mean how much shorter are they? Do I see myself as a man back then, or do I see myself as a woman back then? That's kind of a complicated question, because there's like the 2 layers that you have. It's very basic. There's probably way more layers, but you have your subconscious and your conscious, right? And then there's probably so many other things involved, but the conscious is what you're aware of, and then the subconscious is what you're not. And I was certainly aware of my female self, but not so much consciously. So it's an interesting thing to think about, and kind of has me also wondering about the men that I date and who I'm seeing, because I am actually seeking a very strong masculine individual. And if most men in society are kind of like afraid of being patriarchal or feeling, beaten down by feminism, then it's like, I don't want to swear, but where the hell is my man? Like, where's the man that isn't afraid of being masculine and owning himself? Now, that I will have to kind of like push that comment aside and say there can be people who are patriarchal versus someone who is masculine, and I would not equate those as the same thing. But I think they get bucketed together with toxic masculinity as well. It's a complex bag when you kind of bring all these things together, because you could say, well, they're just like super toxic masculine. And what does that even mean? So like I find with the men that I date, I need someone who's comfortable and confident in their masculine space and holding that, and also not afraid of being themselves, but not like being commanding and telling me what to do unless it's in bed. Yeah, unless it's in bed, but, don't tell me to wash the dishes. Don't tell me to make you a sandwich, unless, that's my kink and that's what I'm into. But, we have to have this discussion beforehand. But I've dated some men who are just so afraid of owning up to their masculinity, owning up to what they want. I talk about this in my stand-up a little bit. The routine being like, well, you know, really what they want is to get their dick wet. And when they ask you how your day is, really what they're saying is, can you make my dick wet? And they're not really, that came out terrible. They're not really expressing, the whole point that I'm trying to get to is a lot of the times they're just not expressing who they are, what they want. And I find it very attractive for someone, regardless of gender, to know who they are and to know what they want and to speak and ask for it, not in a way that's aggressive, not in a way that feels threatened, but feels clear. I'm going to touch on this very lightly, but boundaries. I had someone express their boundaries to me last week about like, hey, like, please don't express something that I may have felt in relation to someone else. But they expressed it like this, basically saying, hey, I'm really trying to practice expressing my own personal boundaries and space, and so I would really appreciate it if you didn't do X. Okay, that's coming from a very weak space of expressing your needs and what you want. And not only that, but when you say that, you make it into a very big deal because now it's this huge personal enraptured expression. And a much better way of expressing this would be to say, hey, that email you shot out and you said that thing, can you not talk on my behalf? I'd appreciate that. It's no big deal. We can move on. And that is a much clearer, much more confident, and much less dramatic way of just saying, hey, like, please, this is my boundary. Please don't do that. And so, you know, I wanted to make a video on boundaries, but honestly, I'm not very good at communicating my boundaries because I don't ever feel like my boundaries get pressed on. Maybe it's because I'm more assertive. Maybe it's because I am one of those people that just say, hey, this is who I am and this is what I want. And then people just respect that and understand that there's boundaries. Or maybe it's just that I choose people who understand what boundaries are. But I feel like people around me complain about their boundaries more than I get my boundaries pressed. So I guess that's a blessing. I'm gonna have to figure that one out because I would love to share with you how to be a person that doesn't need to express boundaries because people just automatically express them. But I'm gonna have to reverse engineer that and spend some time on that. God, this looks so cool. Like, look at this. Yeah. Anyways, that's me for today. It's kind of a random video. I really just need some therapy and someone to talk to. Thank you for listening and kind of going through this wave with me. And I'll see you tomorrow. Topics. If you have some, please suggest some because I'm kind of scratching my head on what to talk about right now and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, bye darling.